Hi, everyone. I'm Patricia, and I never imagined an ordinary trip to Whole Foods could change my life forever. But fate has a way of surprising us. There I was, inspecting avocados for ripeness, when I accidentally backed into someone's shopping cart. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I stammered, turning to apologize. Warm brown eyes met mine, framed by a kind smile that crinkled at the edges. No worries, he chuckled, steadying himself against the cart. I was totally in your blind spot. That's when I noticed his prosthetic leg, though it wasn't what held my attention. It was the way he smiled, effortlessly disarming. I'm Rick, he said, extending a hand. And you must be the avocado whisperer. I laughed, feeling a blush creep up my cheeks. Patricia, I replied. And trust me, I'm terrible at picking them. I just pretend to know what I'm doing. What started as a chance encounter turned into an hour-long conversation in the produce section. Rick was a software engineer working on his own startup, and he seemed genuinely fascinated by my work as a physical therapist at Boston Rehabilitation Center. When I mentioned my profession, his grin widened. A physical therapist? My mom's going to love this, he joked. She's been trying to set me up with medical professionals for years. Says they'll understand my situation better. That's how I first heard about Karen Anderson. 2 weeks later, I met her at her elegant Beacon Hill townhouse. Karen wrapped me in a warm embrace the moment I stepped through the door. Rick's told me so much about you, sweetheart. A physical therapist. What a blessing. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson, I replied, glancing around at the stunning decor. You have a beautiful home. Oh, please, call me Karen. Or better yet, Mom, she said with a wink at Rick. I have a feeling you'll be around for a while. She was right about that. Rick and I fell hard for each other. His disability, the result of a childhood car accident, never defined him. It only made him more determined. His tech startup took off, and I thrived in my career. Within a year, we bought our dream home in Newton, a charming colonial with a wraparound porch. Karen was ecstatic, offering to help decorate. Darling, those curtains simply won't do. Let me call my interior designer, she insisted. She dropped by often, unannounced, with groceries or new home accessories. The kitchen would look much better if you arranged the appliances this way, she'd say. Or, that paint color doesn't match the neighborhood aesthetic. One night, after she rearranged our entire living room, I mentioned it to Rick. Your mom's very involved, I said gently. She's just excited, he replied, pulling me close. It's been just us since Dad died, and she can be a bit overwhelming with her love. Thank you for being so patient. I smiled and nodded, brushing away the slight unease in my stomach. She was just being helpful, right? Karen even took charge of our wedding planning. You focus on your career, sweetie, she said, patting my hand. I know exactly what my Rick would want for his special day. Looking back, I should have noticed how she emphasized my Rick, or how her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. But I was too caught up in my happiness, too blinded by the perfect life we were building. Then came the wedding reception. The Four Seasons ballroom was everything I had dreamed of. The night felt magical, until Karen stumbled toward the DJ booth, snatching the microphone from the singer. Everyone needs to hear this, she slurred, gripping the stand for balance. I froze mid-conversation, my bridesmaids' laughter fading into shocked silence. You all think Patricia is some perfect angel who saved my son, Karen sneered. Well, let me tell you the truth. The crystal champagne flute slipped from my hand, shattering on the marble floor. She's the one who ruined his leg, Karen shouted, pointing a trembling finger at me. She was his physical therapist after the accident. She deliberately botched his recovery for the insurance payout. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My boss, Dr. Thompson, was staring at me, his expression unreadable. Around the room, phones were already out, fingers flying across screens. Security, please escort Mrs. Anderson outside. Rick's voice cracked through the speakers as he grabbed a second microphone. Don't you dare shut me up, Karen shrieked. I have proof she's a fraud. She's manipulating my baby boy. 2 guards approached, but Karen jerked away, spilling wine down her designer gown. Ask her where she was working in 2010. Ask her about the malpractice settlement. I was a sophomore at UCLA, I whispered, but the damage was done. Whispers swirled, faces blurred. In the chaos, I fled to the bridal suite. Rick found me moments later, clutching a paper bag to my lips, struggling to breathe. Baby, I'm so sorry, he said, kneeling beside me. She's completely lost it. Everyone knows it's not true. A soft knock interrupted us. A petite woman with Rick's eyes peeked inside. "Can I come in?" she asked hesitantly. "I'm Rachel, Rick's cousin, and I think there's something you both need to know." She perched on the ottoman, twisting her bracelet nervously. "This isn't the first time Aunt Karen has done something like this." "What do you mean?" Rick asked, sinking onto the couch. "Remember Jessica? Your fiancé from 3 years ago?" Rachel said, her voice trembling. "She left me at the altar. Said she couldn't handle the commitment," Rick replied, frowning. "No," Rachel said softly. "Aunt Karen cornered her at the rehearsal dinner. She threatened to expose some made-up scandal about her family's business. Told her she'd destroy her father's company if she married you." I felt the color drain from my face. "Why didn't anyone say something?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Because Karen made sure Jessica looked like the villain," Rachel said. "Just like she's trying to do to you now. She's been doing this for years, controlling Rick's life, driving away anyone who gets too close." Rick's phone buzzed continuously. Messages from confused guests, missed calls from business partners. Rachel showed us her phone. "She's already posting about it on Facebook, calling for an investigation into the rehabilitation center." "This is insane," Rick muttered, running his hands through his hair. "I never even had a physical therapist in Boston. My rehabilitation was in Chicago." "I have more," Rachel said, leaning forward, her voice steady but serious. "A lot more. And if you're ready to hear it, I think it's time you both knew exactly what kind of person Karen Anderson really is." Commotion outside drew our attention. Through the window, we saw Karen in the parking lot, arguing with police, waving papers, and pointing at the building. "She's trying to file a formal complaint," Rachel sighed. "But this time, her lies are going to catch up with her. I promise you that." Looking at Rick's devastated face, I realized that our perfect wedding day had just become ground zero for a war I never saw coming. But watching Karen's erratic performance in the parking lot, I had a sinking feeling that she just made her biggest mistake yet. Back at home, Rick sat in stunned silence, staring at the stack of mail Rachel had retrieved from Karen's house. Investment statements, insurance policies, and bank documents, all addressed to him, but hidden in his mother's study. "That's not even half of it," said Thomas, his father's former business partner, spreading more papers across our dining room table. "Your father left you controlling interest in Anderson Tech," Thomas explained. "Karen was only supposed to act as a temporary trustee until you turned 25. "I'm 32, Rick said, his voice shaking. "She told me Dad left everything to her, that I only got a monthly allowance because that's what he wanted." "She forged your signature on these documents," Thomas said, pointing to transfer papers. "Moved millions into offshore accounts and used your disability as leverage, claiming you weren't capable of managing the fortune." My phone buzzed. Another email from the hospital board. I sighed, showing Rick the message. "They're suspending me next week," I said. "Karen's convinced them I'm a liability." Rachel scrolled through her phone and shook her head. "Look what she just posted in the Boston Business Forum." The post detailed Rick's supposed severe PTSD and cognitive issues stemming from his childhood accident. The comments were already piling up, potential investors expressing concern about backing his company. "Your mother's systematic," Thomas said, shaking his head. "She's trying to make you both look unstable and incompetent." The phone rang, startling us. It was the hospital's emergency line. "Mrs. Anderson was just admitted with severe chest pains," the nurse said. "She's asking for Rick." Rick grabbed his keys immediately. "Wait," Rachel said, locking the door. "Call the hospital directly." One phone call revealed the truth. Karen had never been admitted. But by the time we realized her deception, Rick had already missed his investor meeting. His biggest backer pulled out, citing concerns about leadership stability. "She cost us the Series B funding," Rick said, slumping into a chair. 2 years of work, gone. "Look at these bank statements," Thomas said, pointing to suspicious transfers. "She's been siphoning money from your trust fund into her personal accounts for years. Using your social security number," Rachel added. "And if something else, remember how she claimed she paid for your surgeries?" Rick nodded, his expression wary. "The insurance documents show your father's policy covered everything." Karen had pocketed the donations from Rick's accident fund. A betrayal that became just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The doorbell rang, interrupting our tense discussion. A courier handed me a thick envelope. Inside were medical records Karen had sent to my licensing board, supposedly proving my negligence. But the dates didn't match and the signatures were clearly forged. "She's getting sloppy," Thomas muttered, gathering the evidence. These forgeries, the fake hospital emergency, the social media posts, she's leaving a trail. "What do we do?" I asked, watching Rick stare silently at his father's old photos on the mantel. "We don't do anything," Rachel said with a grim smile. "Karen's already done enough." "These documents," Thomas said, holding up the forged papers, "are going straight to the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. An anonymous tip. Let's see how she handles real investigators asking about fraud and identity theft." "She'll claim she was protecting me," Rick said bitterly. "Not this time." Thomas pulled out a final document, your father's original will. "I kept a copy in my personal safe. Wait until the authorities see how different it is from the one Karen perpetrated." Looking at the evidence spread across our table, years of theft, lies, and manipulation laid bare, I realized that Karen's greatest weapon had always been our silence. But now, her desperation to destroy us had created a paper trail that would finally bring her down. "Turn on the news," Rachel's excited voice came through the phone. The TV lit up with breaking news footage of Karen being escorted from her real estate office in handcuffs. Her designer suit clashed sharply with the FBI windbreakers surrounding her. "Mrs. Anderson is charged with multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement," the reporter announced. Sources say the investigation began after suspicious activity was detected in offshore accounts linked to Anderson Tech. Rick squeezed my hand as his mother's mugshot appeared on the screen. "I can't believe it's finally over," he said quietly. The following weeks brought an avalanche of revelations. Karen's obsession with destroying me had led her to bribe a hospital clerk for access to patient records, attempting to fabricate evidence of negligence. The clerk reported her, triggering a broader investigation. "The feds found everything," Thomas explained during a meeting with prosecutors. "Tax evasion, embezzlement from Rick's trust fund, even insurance fraud from the donations she collected after his accident." Karen's real estate empire crumbled as clients fled. The Boston Globe ran a scathing expose titled "Socialite's Web of Lies Unravels." Her country club membership was revoked, and former friends pretended they'd never known her. 15 years, Rick mumbled after the sentencing. "She'll be in prison for 15 years. The restitution hearing is next week," Rachel reminded us. "They're seizing her assets to repay what she stole from you." We used the recovered funds to launch the Anderson Wilson Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping people with disabilities access rehabilitation services and career support. Rick's tech company shifted its focus to developing affordable prosthetics, while I continued my work at the rehabilitation center, now as director. 6 months later, I received a letter from the prison. The shaky handwriting was unmistakably Karen's. "I did it all for Rick. You'll never understand a mother's love." I dropped the letter into the shredder without finishing it. The foundation approved 10 new scholarships today. Rick announced that evening, his prosthetic leg propped on our coffee table. Kids who couldn't afford physical therapy before. And guess who called? I said, grinning, "Jessica, your ex-fiancée. She's joining our board of directors." Through the window, the lights of the foundation's new building glowed against the Boston skyline. Somewhere in a federal prison, Karen sat in a gray cell, stripped of her designer clothes and social status, while we turned her decades of harm into hope for others. "Ready for the gala tonight?" Rick asked, adjusting his tie. "The governor's attending." "Let me guess." I smirked. "Mom won't be making it to this party." "Nope," he laughed, pulling me close. "But I hear the prison cafeteria serves excellent rubber chicken." We had taken Karen's poison and turned it into medicine. Her destruction became the foundation of something greater. As we walked hand in hand to the gala, I realized that some happy endings don't come from forgiveness, they come from finally breaking free. What would you do if a mother-in-law tried to destroy your career with false accusations? Share your thoughts below.